Hey folks, Kevin here. It's November 2nd, 2022. We've had 2 hard frosts and several light frosts here on our property. We're located in Oswego, New York, Zone 5A, not too far from Lake Ontario. Today's video is about, or this video, will be a couple of days. This video is about how we overwinter our fig trees. These are brown turkey and Chicago hardy fig trees that are potted out, that are put in the ground outside here along a high wind zone area. And I thought I'd review the process that we're going through. So I'll be referring to these hoops, and these are poly low tunnel hoops that you can put over all different beds. You may have seen these hoops in covering our blueberry patch out in the first food forest. We've used them to cover up blueberries over the wintertime when they're real young and fragile as well. And we'll be using these hoops to help protect and insulate our brown turkey and Chicago hardy fig trees. There is a video that I made a couple years ago about using electric conduit. This is 1/2-inch electric conduit. These are 10-foot lengths. I bought the tool for bending these from Johnny's Seeds. You can make your own jig to bend these. These work out absolutely fantastic. So these are so I do have a video. I can't remember what the title is, but it might be low tunnel, or I just can't remember what it was for, unfortunately. So probably the most important thing to do before we get our fig trees covered up for the winter and insulated is to wait for a good hard frost where all the leaves start to wilt and fall off. All of the ones fell off of most of it. They didn't completely fall off the one that was overwintered last year, and we'll go down to that one in just a second. So when I put this line in, and this is next to our living fence here along the property line, there's an elderberry plant here that we transplanted this year. So I put all of our fig trees in a row, and these are the hoops that a white plastic will be covering. And since the winds come out of the northwest, and that direction is northwest over there, so the winds will come right across here, and this is higher than his property line here. This elevated ground level, 5 foot high above his level there, will help to break the wind, but the wind will shoot right up over here and hit these hoops pretty hard. But I have these hoops every, probably 3 or 4 feet for the most part. Some of these are too tall for in here, and either I can prune them off, which isn't a bad thing to do, or what I can do is tie them, use some paracord, put a loop around this part of this fig tree here, and then snug it to the base of that fig tree right there. So a loop will go around the base of this fig tree, the top of here, and Thea's real good at doing this stuff, and that gets these down below the top level of the hoop. So that's what we'll be doing. You can see I put this one up against this one here, and this will get whipped right down in here, and that way these shoots that are here will bear fruit. So all of these, all right, so there's one of the figs right here. All of these apical buds, will stimulate the plant to produce more and more fruit next year. If I cut off, let's say I cut this off right here, all of the fruit that could come from this part of the tree or bush would be lost. But my goal now is to train these so that they all sort of go down at an angle like this, and it's easier. They're closer to the ground. The figs, during our winters here, everything below the surface of the ground will survive, but everything above the surface of the ground will die if we don't properly insulate them. So you can see some of the hoops, I have them closer together, and this will be tapered down as well. So you get the idea of how we're going to do this. And then the next thing, let's say I get all the rest of the hoops in. I've got to get the rest of the hoops right down here, and I haven't done this yet. I had to move the fig that we had in the ground here last year because it wasn't in alignment with these ones here. I pruned it back. These limbs here are really susceptible to a frost because they are not lignified. They're still nice and green. So, but these will fold down easily and be underneath the hoops. I just got to get the rest of the hoops down here. And I had to move these two here as well. But we want to have them all pretty much in a straight line, get the hoops all the way down to here, and get each one of these tied down to the next one over there. Having the fig trees tied down close to the ground, or even if you put a block on it, it'll send down roots where it's touching the ground. That'll allow, along that horizontal axis, it'll allow new shoots to shoot up next year, which really won't produce any fruit unless it's certain varieties, but the following year, they will all produce fruit. And we want to keep these as bushes, not as trees. So when I'm growing them in pots, and we want to have them going inside the house and all, I often like them being as trees. If you're going to grow them in a greenhouse or have them in the ground, you want them to be more of a bush type plant, meaning multiple stems coming up. But since a lot of these are already like, 4 foot, 5 foot tall, we want to go ahead and bend them down. That'll encourage them to send up other shoots, and we prune them. That stimulates the auxins. So when we prune the apical bud, that stimulates vegetative growth because of the auxins are being signaled when we cut off the apical bud. And the goal of this is to create a really nice, beautiful, living fence that goes across here, which I don't know of anyone in a cold temperate climate like we have, where you get some really deep freezes and lots of snow, that has done it this way as a living fence with fig trees. But the ones we put in last year, they did so beautifully. I thought that would be fantastic to do it again. And I thought long and hard about different ways of insulating these. So the next thing that's going to be done is similar to the way I did with the blueberries. I'll take paracord and I'll anchor it at the base, at the end of each end of it, and we'll wrap it right around each one of these hoops, which will interlock them all the way down. I will take a couple of other hoops and put them perpendicular to these because we get tremendous snow loads. The good thing about this shape, it allows the snow to fall right off until it gets about the height. But the winds here will create a drift on the other side of this. So I think it'll only get a little bit high in this. There'll be lots of snow on this side if we get a lot of snow this winter. That snow will help to insulate it. So once I have the paracord across the top of these and they're tied down, then I'll go and get our roll of white plastic, and I'll lay it down lengthwise down along this side here, and put blocks, weights on one edge of it. Then what I'm going to do, we're fortunate enough to have our town deliver leaves that they picked up from the local cemeteries. So those leaves are piled out back, and what I'll do is I'll have Mini-Me, the Kubota B2601, hook on to a grapple, and I'll go and grab leaves, and I'll start dumping them onto this after the white plastic has been laid on that side. So we may go ahead and then remember, all of the trees will have been tied down by then, and the plastic will be on the other side, and I'll just dump the leaves in here and try to build it right up to the top of the paracord right here. They'll all settle down, but the stuff that remains above the leaves will potentially freeze and die, likely will freeze and die. So the lower we get all of these, the better off. So the base of all of these trees will turn into bushes next year, even if the tops die back. Then next year, once we remove, now why are we using white plastic? We don't want to use clear plastic because it'll have a greenhouse effect, and on those sunny days it will make it too hot in there, and it'll stimulate the fig trees to come out of dormancy, which is really bad. That's not what we want. We want them to stay dormant until the appropriate time of year next spring, when we want the trees to break dormancy, remove the covers and all. We don't want to use black plastic either, because that's going to absorb the heat and create a hot box inside of the hoops as well. The white helps to reflect the solar radiation and doesn't afford excessive heat inside of these areas. So the key things I think that are important is, one, we want to wait until you get a good hard frost. If you're going to do some pruning, which I did have to do already with some, we want to get the trees to turn into a bush. So either we prune them off low, or we bend the tree trunks down towards the ground itself. We want to insulate them. There's lots of different ways. People will go ahead and use leaves. They'll go and buy insulation from their box store. They'll wrap it in burlap. They'll cover it with plastic. Now we want to have it covered so that all the water getting into the leaves, or whatever material is there, doesn't freeze and damage them as well. So that's the intro to what I'll be doing over here. I'll probably shoot some time-lapse photography. I haven't shot any yet doing all of this, but I'll try and get some time-lapse of what we're doing and either include it in this video or in a subsequent video. So we'll see how everything works out. So here we go. Okay, Thea's hard at work over here, tying the figs down.
Doing my thing.
Doing her thing. Girl Scout girl.
Girl Scout girl. A little bit of Girl Scout knots here and there.
That's right.
Kevin does the digging. I do the knots.
That's right. Yeah, my knots are pretty simple.
Yep.
So I'm just going to walk down here and show. So what Thea's been doing here, so we got the rest of the hoops up along in here, and to help stabilize, we did some crossing of the hoops to help stabilize them, and I've got some of the cable ties here to help secure those. And after Thea's done with getting each one of the figs tied down, then we'll put a paracord going from this T-post right down over the whole top of all of the hoops here, and then we'll put the white plastic on the other side over here, get it anchored, and then we'll start loading leaves into the hoop itself. So these ones that were standing up taller before, Thea's got her Girl Scout knots here. I've got some stakes to hold some down. Here's another stake if there wasn't a good base to the trees. This way we don't have to prune them very much. And we'll see how well this does work. But by doing them in an arch like this, or laying them horizontal with the ground, that will allow the new growth to come up vertical from here. So we don't have to release these next year unless they tend to stay this way. Trying to train these to be down like this, and then the next year new shoots will come up from each one of these nodes. Here's some that have come up already here from because this one always leaned to the side. I kept this one to the side. So about every 15-20 feet we have some crosses here. Another cross at each end. And then a T-post to anchor. So we'll anchor down at the ground level there, come up, go through this cross, tie in each one of these all the way down. And as the winds come and the snow gets on it, there's less of a chance of these things falling over to the side because they're not entirely stable here. So, and by filling up the void in here with leaves, that should help to insulate all of the figs in here, so there's less loss over the winter months. So that's the plan anyways. Thea's going to finish up those last couple, and we're going to go for a lunch break.